The Los Angeles Clippers have somehow become a team that was one of the most hyped and likely to win it all last year to one of the most underrated and maybe even underappreciated teams in the league at the time I'm making this video. It was clear that last season the Clippers just weren't meshed as a team, and a lot of players were either butting heads or just didn't do what they needed to do to get the job done. And you just can't have that on a championship contender nowadays. But now, the Clippers may have just made a move that will save their starting lineup and maybe even championship hopes when they acquired Rajon Rondo at the trade deadline. And today, we will be analyzing what we've seen out of Rajon Rondo so far since he joined the Clippers, and whether or not he truly has what it takes to be the facilitator guard this team needs to get past everyone in the stacked Western Conference. But as always, if you've been enjoying the content or end up liking this video, it would be absolutely clutch if you subscribed if you're new and join the Woods crew. As it turns out, over 95% of you guys who watch the content aren't even subscribed, so if you just hit that sub button below, I could go full time and make videos every day for you guys very soon. With all that being said though, let's just get right into this Clippers team, what they have to do in order to win at the highest level in the playoffs this year, and the impact that Rajon Rondo could potentially have for them now and as the season goes on. Like I said, it was clear that the Clippers roster just didn't have the right pieces to make a championship push looking back at last year. Sure, they had a lot of talent and depth. I mean, that's what made them a very suitable destination for Kawhi Leonard in the first place. But the fact is, this team just wasn't able to mesh on and off the court, which in my eyes is what led to their downfall last year. Even approaching the trade deadline, it was clear that this team was in dire need of a point guard who could contribute on both sides of the ball, because even though Kawhi Leonard and PG are some of the best players in the league, being a facilitator just isn't what they are meant to do on the court, and honestly makes them a lot worse if they try to do that in the first place. But although there were talks of the Clippers going all in on someone like Russell Westbrook and especially Kyle Lowry, the Clippers took a less risky, high reward trade when they dealt Lou Williams for Rajon Rondo. In my eyes, I honestly really like this move for the Clippers. It's no secret that with big contract guards like the ones I mentioned, LA would have to give up almost all of their depth in order to get a third star, but with the Rondo trade, this team only had to swap Lou Williams, who honestly just wasn't looking like himself, especially compared to previous years where he was always a front runner for the sixth man of the year. And as of right now, this is truly looking like it was the perfect move for this team to make. And although we don't have a huge sample size with Rondo on this team, I believe that what we've seen so far is just a sample of what he's yet to come. Not to mention that there is such thing as playoffs Rondo, which means that he could turn up even more come playoffs time, which would be huge for this team, but we'll discuss that in a bit. As far as what we've seen right now, Rajon Rondo's impact on this Clippers team has been made clear in his first 6 games. I know, the Clippers already had a winning team before this trade, but since Rondo joined the team, they are 6-0, and you could definitely say that Rondo has already been showing that he is in fact the right move for this Clippers team to make. Personally, I've watched almost all the games that Rondo's played in with the Clippers so far, or at least the highlights, and it's clear that he is not in fact washed like people were saying while he was on the Hawks, and he is balling at the highest level and leading this team to wins. So far, Rondo has been doing what this team needs from him the most and has been doing very well at a high level, that thing being facilitating the offense. Over the last 6 games, we've seen what the Clippers team looks like when they have a guard that can facilitate the offense at an elite level, and even though his first 6 games weren't against any super crazy teams, it still proves that the hole in the Clippers team might have just been fixed with this move, and the stats don't lie. Since Rondo joined the Clippers, he's had a net rating of 32, which if you didn't know is absolutely insane. This means that when Rondo is on the court for this Clippers team, they're 32 points better than whoever they're going against per 100 possessions, which is pretty impressive to say the least. Not to mention the fact that over this win streak since Rondo joined the team, we've seen that Paul George can be as dominant as ever and one of the best offensive players in the league, and Kawhi, well, he's been doing his thing too. But there's a question that many people, including myself, are thinking: will this level of high play be able to translate over to the playoffs when it counts most? And to answer that question, we really don't know until they begin. But what I do know is there are a few things this team will have to do if they want to contend in the playoffs in this stacked Western Conference. So with that being said, let's just get right into those things. Last year going into the playoffs, it was looking like the Clippers were going to win it all or at least make the Western Conference Finals. But what caused their downfall was not only the tension in the locker room at the time that was revealed after the season, but also the fact that when it mattered most, the stars of LA just could not deliver. Don't get me wrong here, a lot of this was because of Pandemic P, Playoff P, PG 13%. Okay, I'm done. But let's not forget that PG and Kawhi choked Game 7 of last year. But no one's gonna blame it on Kawhi's bad performance because he has been clutch and dominant in the playoffs his whole career. But if this Clippers team wants to beat all the stacked rosters in the West, as much as someone like Rondo does help this team, all the pressure does still fall on the stars of LA. It's no secret that in the league like today, it's a stars league, and in my eyes, not only will this dynamic duo have to continue the play we've seen out of them so far this season in the playoffs, but also take it up to another level. But with that being said, do not sleep on Rajon Rondo, because in my eyes, playoff Rondo is definitely still a thing, and it's clear that the Clippers believe it too because they took a big gamble on getting this guy on the team. Do I think Rajon Rondo is a great fit for this team? Definitely, but the Clippers had a chance to get a guy in Lowry who not only has what it takes to win at the highest level in the playoffs, but also won a chip with Kawhi just a couple of years ago. And what makes this move so risky is the fact that if Rondo doesn't step up in the playoffs and the Clippers fail again like they did last year, Kawhi could very well walk and join a team to win now like the Miami Heat, Golden State, or even the LA Lakers. But after seeing what Rondo's been doing for the team so far, I believe that this was in fact the right move for now, especially because of the fact that the Clippers have also been averaging 2 more assists per game since Rondo joined the team, which even though that may not seem like much, is a lot. But even though this team has been playing great, we just have to talk about their roster going into the playoffs, because who knows what my next Clippers video will be. Because what makes this team look even better is the fact that despite their dominance, they aren't even at full strength, which in itself is crazy. This is a team that has one of their best defenders in Patrick Beverley out with a broken hand, and their elite big man in Serge Ibaka out as well with back issues. When these guys come back for the playoffs, in my eyes, the Clippers team is low-key looking like one of the best teams in the West, and that's saying something. Honestly, I don't think people are talking about this enough, but with Pat Bev and Rondo, this Clippers team is equipped with one of the best rosters to clamp up opposing teams' backcourts, which should allow them to take their game to the next level in the playoffs. And not only that, but also get out of the first couple of rounds pretty easily. I mean, look at all the teams that the Clippers could play on their way to the Western Conference Finals. The Trailblazers, Mavs, Suns, Jazz, and maybe even the Warriors or Grizzlies. But just think about any of these teams and the best player on their team. Yeah, they are literally all at the guard, which is what gives the Clippers a pretty solid edge. Stars like Stephen Curry, Damian Lillard, D-Book, Donovan Mitchell, Luka, and Alex Caruso. Oh wait, my bad. No disrespect to him, but in my eyes, I just can't see the Clippers having serious problems with all the teams I mentioned. Because the fact is, as long as their crafty guards are healthy and the stars can produce big results on the offense side of the ball, there is really not much to worry about for this Clippers team. But like I said, as much as guys like Rondo and Pat Bev will have an impact for this team, in my eyes, I believe that all of the Clippers' success will come down to one person. That person being Paul George, which may be a hot take, but let me just explain here. Last season, the Clippers were undeniable favorites to win it all like I mentioned, and a lot of that was because of their immense regular season success fueled by Paul George. I know, many people may have forgotten, so let me just remind you that this man was lethal in the regular season last year and was looking like one of the best scorers in the league, which was very good for the Clippers team to say the least. But then the playoffs came, and PG, well, he just couldn't deliver at the level when it counted most. If the Clippers want to make a deep playoff run and make sure they are able to keep Kawhi in the offseason, this type of performance by Paul George just cannot happen again, and there's honestly no way around it. People have been throwing it out there that there is the most pressure on Kawhi because he's the one that has to will the team to the finals like he did in the past, but this just isn't even true. When Kawhi made his championship runs, he had stars around him who were not only consistent, but could step up when needed in the spotlight as well. Most recently, we saw Lowry do this on the Raptors championship run, and we saw the same players on the Spurs do this as well. The truth is, even though Rondo will make a huge difference for this team, role players aren't the ones that most often lead the chips nowadays. Stars are what counts. But even though the people on the internet have a short-term memory for the most part, I think we should go back to 2018 and remember that Paul George is one of the most clutch players early in the playoffs. If you guys never watched the 2018 Thunder Jazz series, let me just say that you need to go check it out, because that will show you that Paul George is in fact not only clutch, but capable of being the man on the team when needed, which is why he got the name Playoff P in 2018. In my eyes, I 100% believe that Paul George has what it takes to not only be good at the highest level in the playoffs, but even dominate if he can turn it up like he did just a couple of years ago. But if he can't, even with the help of Rondo, it's hard to see this Clippers team making it out of the second round, let alone making it to the finals. To say the least, it will be very interesting to see if the Clippers' recent success translate into the playoffs and whether or not they can get some wins and secure Kawhi for his late prime. But I guess all we can do is wait for this highly anticipated playoffs this year. Thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy, it would mean the world if you subscribed if you're new and join the Woods crew, as well as leaving a like down below. No joke, that's all it takes for me to go full time very soon, and I cannot do it without people like you. But regardless, I really appreciate everyone that's still watching. I'll catch you all in the next one. Woods out.